Steph, it's been so fun and having you in this boot camp. What are we in the fourth week now? Are we entering the fourth week? And
Yeah, I
so
think fourth week.
I just kind of was curious about, you said some really good things about the experience in here, and I just kind of wanted to get your honest assessment. Like, what has it been like, even though it's so early, as we're, basically 3 weeks into it, starting the fourth week? What has
hmm
been, what has been your experience?
It's been really great. Especially, just getting the jumble in out of my brain and like onto paper,
Yeah.
virtual paper, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Um, so I've been wanting having this like idea and kind of dream of like being my own boss, having my own business, something along those lines since probably like 2015, if I'm honest,
Mhm.
just not really sure what it looks like or anything like that. I got certified as a health coach in 2017. And then for, life reasons, all the different reasons, playing around with something and bouncing back and forth of doing it and not doing it and that type of thing. And, um, of course, 2020 was kind of a pivotal year for a lot of people. And that was, when we had just moved to a new city, um, March of 2020. So like right as everything was starting to shut down, my husband's job had transferred us to a new city. And so I couldn't really go out and find a new job when I
Right.
had to be home with the kids and stuff. And that's kind of when it solidified that, okay, I need to try to figure this out. So that was even 4 years ago. But then, coming up on the roadblocks of like, well, I don't even know. Like I'm very much the creative. Like I have all the ideas of what I want to do, but the practicality of how to actually do it has always been a struggle for me. So then, with the advent of AI, I was like, oh, this is a really cool tool. All the different platforms from GPT is the most popular, of course, and stuff, and um, are one of the ones out there. But it's brand, it's new. I didn't know
Mhm.
what to do or anything. And so, yeah, these first couple of weeks have really been great to calm the storm in my head, I guess you could
That's like,
say,
yeah.
all the getting all the ideas and not kind of taking that creative load off,
Mhm.
and really more stepping back and turning into more of the CEO role and the delegator type of role,
Mhm.
manager role, whatever you want to call it, and having the chat GPT do the quote unquote work for me and all that thinking to kind of collaborate on the thoughts of this is everything that I've been trying to figure out. What do you think about it?
Yeah, you've been really good. Probably one of the stronger. Um, you took like a fish to water to this kind of prompting, and I don't know how much. I think when you said early on prior to starting this boot camp, you'd played around with ChatGPT, and I think you said you dipped your toe in it. I don't know, maybe you dipped a foot, but you really taken to it really well. And would you attribute that to the kind of the prompting that was in the course and in the boot camp? I mean, you're really strong at prompting. I'm really, it's really nice to see somebody be so good
Yeah.
at it this early.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that because like I mentioned to you before is I've played around with it, but it was very general because I was
Mhm.
asking, like we talk about in the course, like simple in gets simple out, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So I was always asking it like very simple run of the mill type of I want to do this, or like I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but just very simple type of commands rather than act as this type of role, like getting that format of how it wants to do it and or how you want it to work, like act as the branding expert or whatever. um, and then once that kind of clicked and I saw how the format worked, it just was like, all right, cool. Like now that was the missing piece really for me was the
Yeah.
how do I get it to tell me what I want it to tell me?
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's been fun watching your output, like I said, and as you shared and how you've taken the prompts that we gave you in the beginning, but then you expanded it. You put your input, your flavor, your questions. It's as I watch your responses, it's I can like, oh, I see the light bulb turning on in her head with your responses, and that's been really kind of enjoyable for me to watch and
Yeah.
look at how that happened to you. I'm very excited. How excited are you about where this brand is going to go? Do you have a sense of optimism? Are you excited? I mean, I remember that first week you I don't know, maybe after our first session, and then I think it was on that Thursday, you DM'd me and you said, "Look what I came up with from a niche," and it was very powerful and very strong. I mean, I could
Yeah.
sense the excitement in your DM there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the ball is rolling quicker than ever it has before because like we've said, I've got all these ideas of like what I want it, I want it to look like, this type of community and this type of course. And, like I've got the big picture, and now being able to like step by step, like, okay, now you have your niche, and now we're going to look at some products, and now we're going to figure out some avatars, and now we're going to, build that first product, like all the little baby steps that have eluded me
Yeah.
in business building before is has been really great to have that, and like I mentioned in our last group meeting, like having the weekly group meeting and that accountability, especially with, such a tight knit group, you can really, I know I have to get it done,
Yeah, right.
rather than
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
the
And I think it's so important too, having that accountability. And to your point, it's a soft accountability, right? It's not like,
right,
I'm this, P90X fitness coach going, why are you so worthless and weak if you didn't show right? I mean,
right.
it's there, but you're right. Just sometimes even just saying, I'm gonna do this. I get it. I like that soft accountability myself, where like,
Mm,
hey, I told Steph that I was gonna do this, and I don't want, I got to get it out there. Sometimes that's just enough, right? That kind of soft
right.
accountability. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Because
love that.
I've bought, I've purchased courses and programs or whatever before. Like can't even tell you how many, probably over
Sure.
the last almost 10 years, you know. Um, and it's always been like a self-led type of class where you with not very much accountability. And this is a good, I think, hybrid of that because you can, watch the lesson and on your own time, but then knowing, okay, we have our get together on Monday kind of lights that fire a little bit of like, okay, now
Yeah,
I have to put this into action because I want to show up with something to talk about rather than just the, I don't know, because there's been other things where there's been like a Facebook group where it's like, hey, share when you're having struggles, but then you're one of 2,000 people or
yeah.
whatever in the group. And so you ask a question and it may not get answered, or you're just like, I don't even want to bother. And then you don't finish. So this is
Well,
to
yeah,
have the,
it's good to hear because that, and I was just talking with Kelly before. That's who I was talking to, Kelly Mao, who's in our group, and she was getting some feedback from people who have been in the group and they've kind of fallen off, and then going through this with you and with Jessica and Karen there, it's like, this needs to be the staple of the mastermind, and I need to do this as many times as possible because it is enjoyable to see, and I think it keeps people engaged. And to your point, I mean, you've got kids, you've got stuff to do, you've got, you know,
full-time job.
family, full-time job and a family to take care of. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and I designed it initially. It's like, well, let's let's just it's 6 weeks, but it's one night a week to get you on your way and then let you in your time, right? You feel like there's plenty of time throughout the week to kind of go over what was kind of taught on Monday, right? Does it feel like that
Yeah.
you get time? Yeah.
There's definitely almost not that I'd want it to be more frequent as far as the meetings, but like I can I do, if I'm like sitting around, I'm like, oh, I have a little bit of time. Maybe I'll play. Like last night I was um thinking about like brand name, and I was like, I'm just gonna start a whole separate chat and just see what I come up with. And so I'm like sitting on my phone in my bed until like 1 in the morning,
Chatting with
chatting
it. That's
away
great. That's
and
awesome.
just to like play around, like see what it comes up with. Cause it's like, it's a whole separate chat from what I've been working on. So I know it's not going to mess anything up of what I've
Hmm.
been doing. And I'm like, oh, let's just see what happens. And so I got some really like fun ideas. And then in like it's got the like, it can generate pictures. And then I was having a lot of fun because then I'm like, okay, now you're a graphic designer. Make me a logo for this.
Oh, that's so
And it was giving
fun.
me, and I was like, this is, just having a whole bunch of fun with it and really enjoying the creation process rather than getting bogged down in the weeds of
Oh,
like,
I love that.
now what do I do? And what's the next step? And that kind of thing. So it's really been
That's really
fun to enter
refreshing to hear
into.
me to hear you say that because I can see it. I mean, because what you're experiencing is what a lot of us have experienced, 18, 19 months ago, and why I'm so passionate about it because it is fun. It for myself, it's like you said, you talked about at the beginning of this conversation, that jumbledness. That's been the story of my life, and kind of one of my biggest frustrations is like it's not, I don't have a lack of ideas. I have too many and I get distracted
Uh-huh.
easy. And
Yeah.
and it's easy to go to the next shiny object, particularly when you hit some resistance. I feel like there's been a pressure relief valve, you know, to kind of help with it. And I don't, I was talking with Kyle Shannon from AI Salon on the podcast, and he had a term called neurospicy, which, and I
Right.
like that term because it does kind of describe a lot of us. And I guess I would ask that of you. Do you consider yourself kind of neurodiverse or neurospicy in some aspect? I mean, not that you're on the spectrum where you got ADHD
Right.
officially or OCD. Then, I mean, I have all of those, it seems like, I feel like,
Yeah.
I feel like, my brain never shuts off, but this gives me like
Yeah.
that pressure relief valve. Is it the same with your brain? Do you have a hyperactive brain?
Yeah, I think so. Like it's, I don't, it's just such a spectrum, of like,
Mhm.
you know, and people I think get stuck in the labels so often.
Sure.
And I'm very much not a label type of person. So it's like, oh, maybe it's this. And I think it's probably just part of who I am as a coach in the business I want to build is like getting outside of those labels. And because some people can get really restricted, like, oh, I have ADHD, I can't blah blah blah, or
Yeah, you're
I'm
right. It
autistic,
like
I can't XYZ.
that label puts them in a box, and it makes
Hmm.
them feel like I can't do because of this, right? And I see what you're
Right.
saying. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, but I definitely do. I relate to people that are talking about like, oh, I have, yeah, I probably have some sort of like autistic tendencies or
Right.
um ADHD something, like we're watching a movie and I'm playing, playing a game on my phone and watching the movie and my husband's like, I'm like, yes, I'm watching it. Like I know what's happening, but I'm still like playing on
Right.
my phone at the same time. Like I
Right.
still am engaging in both things
Yeah.
at this. And it's that way if like the business building side of things also too. It's like I get that I call it squirrel syndrome rather than
Mhm.
shiny object, like, oh, squirrel, like, let's go over
Yeah.
here and let's try this. Or like, oh, this will be the really cool, or oh, I really like that idea. And I've taken a step back over the last probably 8 months ish or so before and then like starting in 20 early part of 2024 is when I was like, okay, like I need to actually like pardon the expression, but like shit or get off the pot.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I'm
Totally.
gonna do this, I need to do this, and that's kind of the um spot where I was at. And then, just scrolling through TikTok and stuff like that. I've, in the business side of TikTok world. And, of course, there's all kinds of
There's too
things
much.
and
Yeah, and you don't know who to
so
believe.
much.
There's so much stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, and kind of going back as we wrap it up here, I think, you're very strong. Like I said, and I can't emphasize it enough. It's been exciting to watch again, like I don't know,
Mhm.
duck to water or a fish to water, like you've taken to it
Yeah.
so well. And it's
Maybe that's
interesting
part
that
of my,
but
maybe
that's,
that's part of my spectrum of whatever it
well,
is
but
like,
I
click,
think
okay, go.
I think it's important for people to know that, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, you're not a tech background. I mean,
No, I've worked in insurance the last 15 years. Like
yeah.
that's my background.
And I think working in insurance, well, it depends, I guess, what aspect of insurance you're working in, but is there a lot of requirements for strong communication, both verbal and written, for the job that you did
Yeah,
in the
well, like
past?
right now I do um telesales essentially. I work from home and I sell insurance policies to
Yeah.
people for home and auto insurance. So part of my job is communicating what this policy means and what they're actually buying,
Right.
instead of just the number. So I think that probably is helpful. But I think, having any sort of like customer experience or customer service type of background will translate really well into the ChatGPT conversation because you have to be clear in your intentions of
Yeah,
what you want and what your expectations are back.
and that's the key. You said the key word, clear in your intentions. It
Hmm.
really, if you can clarify the intent, oh man, you're off to the races. That's where you get the really good output. And if you don't get what you want and sticking with it, and just like you would, I guess, on a sales call, right? It's like, oh wait, they
Hmm.
didn't quite understand what I was saying. How else can I
Right.
communicate this more effectively? And that's kind of what I sense with these large language models. You know, well,
Yeah, absolutely.
this has been exciting. I mean, to watch this, and I'm excited to see when this. We're just a couple weeks out for where you'll actually have a viable brand, right? And
Hmm.
it'll still be in its embryonic baby stages, but it'll be real, right?
Right.
And you'll
And it's
and
a starting point
it's a
that
starting point.
I'd never had before because things will change and iterate and whatever, as
Mhm.
things grow and change and whatever. So something is more, it'll be 100% more than what I had
Yeah.
before, because I had nothing except, okay, I can coach people. Now what? You know,
Well, this will be good. You're validating a lot of kind of what my instincts and gut have told me, like what I kind of want to create. And I really do appreciate you being in the early stages of this and helping me
yeah,
shape the program because you're going through it and I'm seeing your output and I'm seeing how you're kind of taking to this, and it's exciting for me. It tells me that what we have and what we're doing is working so far. So proof is in the pudding. We'll see if we can get a profitable business out of this yet, right? And
yeah,
then that'll be a very exciting success story once you
yeah,
get your first client and
absolutely. The implementation will be the
yeah.
next thing I have to do,
Yeah.
getting out of that creative and actually implementing.
Well, and that's what I'm looking forward to too. Once we get done with this 6 weeks, and like, okay, then how else can we leverage the strength of the mastermind to help you get to that level? You know what I mean? And so that's a whole nother set of skill sets and usage of
Yeah,
AI and ChatGPT to get you to that level. So it'll be fun to kind of to see where this goes. I'm so glad
yeah,
you're in the program, Steph. It really means a lot to me, and it's been
yeah,
fun working with you, and we're just getting started. So I'm excited.
absolutely. Yeah, excited to be here. So
Any
it's,
last kind of recommendations, or would you recommend this to somebody who's kind of been stuck
oh
like me?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If I mean, AI in general is something that it's, if you're not using it, you're going to have to use it at some point. So you might as well, especially if you are in the entrepreneurial space or want to be, or have these ideas like rolling around in your head, even if you don't necessarily want to make a business for yourself, but if you have those, if you're the idea person, but you have all the ideas and you can do something with the ideas, ChatGPT and AI language models can tell you what to do with them. Like you can just, I have all these ideas. What can I do with it? Maybe it starting a business. Maybe it's a change in a different direction. Who knows? What
Hmm.
come out of it. But yeah, it's definitely something to be embraced, and it's been a great experience thus far, and really making it simple and understandable, rather than intimidating like technology can sometimes be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great, Steph. I really appreciate you. And again, thank you for taking time out
Yeah,
from your family this evening to do this. And
no problem.
I
Happy
appreciate
to.
it.